Gareth surveyed the contents of the box with curiosity, his eyes lingering on a peculiar weapon tucked inside. Beside it lay a few extra pencils, but something else caught his attention, a circular piece of metal that gleamed under the harsh fluorescent lights of the room. As he placed his art pad carefully in the lockbox, his fingers brushed against the intriguing object, pulling him closer to it. "What's this?" he asked, lifting it up to examine it more closely. The coin felt unexpectedly heavy in his palm, its surface cool and smooth. "It's a challenge coin," Penn replied, her voice steady, yet tinged with a hint of pride. "A coin? Like currency?" Gareth recalled reading about ancient civilizations that used metal discs as a means of trade. The thought intrigued him. "Not exactly," Penn clarified, a small smile playing on her lips. "You could say it holds value in terms of the influence it carries. Really, it's more of a symbol of my membership in Cerberus. Every member gets minted an identical coin upon joining. So, it's like a trophy or keepsake?" Gareth summarized, the concept beginning to settle in. "Yeah, you could say that," Penn agreed, her eyes glimmering with a mix of nostalgia and pride. As he examined the coin again, Gareth noticed the intricate design depicting a three-headed dog. "Cerberus, fitting name for the group," he remarked, placing the coin back into the box and closing it with a gentle click. A moment of awkwardness followed as he struggled with the lock. He paused when Penn gestured for him to stop. "Don't worry about it. These locks aren't made for humans," he admitted, raising his hands in mock surrender, a hint of embarrassment creeping into his tone. "It's all good," she reassured him with a wave, her smile infectious. "Did you enjoy yourself tonight?" Gareth shifted the conversation, eager to learn more about her experience. "Actually, I did," Penn responded, her tone lightening. There was a relief in her voice that Gareth noted. "I can imagine it was nice to reconnect with your own kind," he said, intrigued by the bond that seemed to flourish among her peers. "Yeah, to be honest, after everything we've been through, I was just glad to relax. It feels like I haven't had a moment to breathe in ages," Penn admitted, her expression softening. "You definitely seem to have fun with that dancing guy," Gareth observed, recalling the way Penn had lit up on the dance floor. "Ha! Not really. It was entertaining, but I have a rule about V-necks that deep," she joked, a playful glint in her eyes. "His outfit was unconventional?" Gareth ventured, trying to understand. "Not exactly taboo, but it certainly sent a specific message, if you catch my drift." Penn made a face that Gareth understood from context clues. It was a mix of amusement and something deeper, perhaps a hint of disdain. "I think I get it," he chuckled, relieved that they could find humor in the evening's events. "Maybe that's a bit harsh of me, but whatever, we're leaving soon anyway," she shrugged, clearly ready to move on from the topic. Gareth laughed, glad that Penn shared his lack of enthusiasm for the dancer's style. "Speaking of leaving, I should check out the mess in my room." "I know it's going to be a disaster," he groaned, already imagining the chaotic scene waiting for him. "I bet mine is too," Penn replied, a touch of empathy in her voice. Was? Gareth raised an eyebrow, glancing sideways at her. I thought you hadn't started cleaning up yet. All right, Shrimp, I was going to offer to help, but now I'm not so sure, she teased, crossing her arms with mock seriousness. Ah, I take it back. I might need your help after all, Gareth admitted, a smile creeping back onto his face. All right, let's go, Shrimp, she replied, amusement dancing in her eyes. Thank you, Giant, Gareth said with a playful nod. As they made their way to Gareth's room, he couldn't shake the feeling of camaraderie that had developed between them. He knew he would need Penn's assistance to set things right. Despite the task seeming manageable, he ended up spending almost 2 hours meticulously organizing his belongings, making sure everything was in its proper place. Penn sat quietly nearby, observing him with an amused expression as he muttered to himself, adjusting the few personal adornments he kept in his room. Outside the nebula, a group of townsfolk stood a distance away, exchanging heartfelt goodbyes. The mayor waved at Deeg as Penn jogged off the ship to find the young woman who had lent her the dress. It was freshly washed and neatly folded in her hands, a gesture of kindness that Penn was eager to repay. Sorry for almost stealing your dress. Here it is, Penn said, extending the garment. You know, you can keep it, the woman replied with a warm smile, gently pushing Penn's hand back. Are you sure? Penn asked, her surprise evident. Absolutely. It might not be your usual style, she motioned to Penn's current military attire, but it doesn't fit me well anyway. All right, thanks. I don't think I caught your name, Penn said, grateful for the gesture. Meredith. And you're welcome, the woman beamed. Penn returned to the crew, waving to everyone as they prepared to depart. You know, Penn, I like this side of you guys. They're nice, still big and rambunctious, but nice, Deed commented as she joined Penn. I wouldn't mind coming back here, Penn admitted, her tone thoughtful. Agreed. Though I think our entrance could use some work. Plummeting isn't my favorite method of landing, Deed joked, emphasizing might a hint at Penn's flair for dramatic entries. I was about to say the same, but if I counted all the ways I've landed on a planet, I'm not sure the math would support my argument, Gareth added, smirking. Speaking of our landing, we need to tow. Suddenly, the loud roar of a ship's thrusters interrupted her. Ah, the tow ship, Deeg said, squinting out over the trees. Within moments, a massive barge appeared, descending through the clouds with an impressive grace. It took just a minute for the ship to settle above the nebula, its presence a reminder of their transition back to space. The townsfolk exchanged last goodbyes before retreating toward town, eager to stay clear of the impending chaos. As they left, the sound of the tow ship's machinery filled the air, lowering multiple mechanical arms that clamped onto the nebula's hull with a satisfying thud. 12 sturdy arms slowly lifted the nebula into a ribcage-like bay within the ship. Additional securing arms locked everything in place, and with a gentle assistance, the nebula was airborne once more. The ride to the city dry dock was brief, but Gareth couldn't help but feel a sense of anticipation. He knew repairs were on the horizon, and with them, a return to the routine they had all become accustomed to. In half a day, the nebula was transferred under her own power to the orbiting space station, where final checks and repairs would take place. While Thwill insisted on being present during the process, the rest of the crew saw this as an opportunity to explore what a human-built and run space station was like. The most noticeable difference was the size. Everything around them was clearly designed for human proportions, dwarfing the crew in both scale and architectural grandeur. The station buzzed with activity, filled with workers who navigated its corridors with an efficiency that felt alien to the townsfolk. As they moved through the station, Penn led the crew toward the main plaza. The crew observed that the humans moved with a hurried purpose, as though every moment counted. Everyone seemed to have a destination and was intent on getting there promptly. Penn noticed that few people paid any attention to the alien visitors. Those who did glance over were merely curious, quickly returning to their tasks without skipping a beat. Deed gathered everyone together before they split off to explore. "All right, folks. I know some of you are interested in Terran technology, and you're free to explore as much as you like, but please be cautious. Penn? People here might be less friendly than the townsfolk we just met, so keep that in mind," Penn warned. "Spacer types can be abrasive, even by our standards. This isn't some backwater station. Security is everywhere, and they aim to maintain peace. If things get rowdy, they'll intervene. Avoid shady areas, and don't wander off alone. You'll be fine." "Excellent. Stay in contact, and we'll depart in 3 hours. The ship is open if you finish early," Deed concluded, her voice firm yet encouraging. With that, the crew began to split off in different directions. Deeg headed toward an antique shop, eager to explore the history of Terran culture, while Tunny T sought out a medical facility to indulge his curiosity. Penn, however, knew exactly where she wanted to go. As she started to make her way through the throng of people, a voice caught her attention. I'm not really keen on wandering alone after the last few days. Would you mind if I tagged along with you?" Gareth asked, his tone more serious now that they were no longer on solid ground. "Sure. Just keep up," Penn replied, a hint of excitement bubbling within her as she led the way. Gareth fell into step beside her, his heart racing a little as he matched her pace. As they navigated the twisting corridors of the station, memories of the fighting ring on Kardec Station resurfaced in Gareth's mind. A knot of apprehension formed in his stomach as he wondered if Penn intended to get involved in something similar again. This time, he guessed, she would be facing real fighters, not just flimsy bots. Penn, we're not headed to a backroom fighting pit, are we?" he asked, a hint of concern edging his voice. No, Gareth. There are MMA and other martial sports here, but they're on the main levels," she assured him, her laughter easing his worries. How silly of him to think otherwise, he thought, though he still couldn't shake the uncertainty of where they were headed. the station's architecture began to show signs of age, with flickering lights struggling against layers of grime that told stories of a bustling past. It seemed they had entered one of the older sections, where time had left its mark. "Didn't you say to avoid the shady parts?" Gareth reminded her, a cautious tone in his voice. "I said you guys shouldn't, but don't worry, we're headed to the right kind of shady," she replied with a mischievous grin, her eyes sparkling with mischief. Was all Gareth could manage, feeling a mix of intrigue and trepidation. "Hey, you asked to tag along." "Don't worry, I wouldn't take you somewhere I couldn't protect you. In many ways, this is one of the safest spots on the station," she reassured him, her confidence shining through. As they turned another corner, they found a slightly wider alleyway with few occupants. Most of the people were gathered around a heavy, slate-gray door, which immediately caught Penn's attention. Above it, a red neon sign flickered to life, spelling out Leeds Dead in a bold, eye-catching font. "What's behind that door?" Gareth asked, a blend of curiosity and apprehension lacing his voice. "An underground club," Penn replied, her excitement palpable. "It's known for its wild fights and unbeatable drinks. Only the boldest dare to step inside." "Are you serious?" Gareth exclaimed, his heart racing. "And you want to go in there?" "Of course. It'll be fun. Just remember to stick close, all right?" she said, her eyes sparkling with a thrill that he couldn't help but admire. With a deep breath, Gareth nodded, feeling both anxious and exhilarated. He was ready for this adventure, even if it felt a little reckless. As Penn pushed open the door, the vibrant sounds of music and laughter spilled out, enveloping them in a whirlwind of energy. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. The air was thick with the scents of various foods and drinks, while colorful lights pulsed in time with the music. A makeshift ring dominated the center of the room, surrounded by an eager crowd. It felt like a world apart from the calm they had just left behind, and Gareth's heart raced at the thought of stepping into this new reality. As they navigated through the crowd, Penn glanced over at Gareth, her expression a mix of excitement and mischief. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, her voice barely audible over the thumping bass. Gareth took a moment to absorb the scene around him, then nodded with determination. "Let's do this." With a shared grin, they dove into the chaos, ready to embrace whatever this night had in store for them.